All right, guys. So you need this paper, the notes for 2-3 two-dimensional figures. Definitely going to need a calculator of some sort. This is the one I'm using. You can just use one of mine or use yours. It's up to you. And we are going to go through how to do this. The biggest thing that this whole entire section focuses on is how to find perimeter, or circumference for circles, and area. Okay? And guess what fun formula you need to know about? The distance formula. So in case you forgot the distance formula, remember it is D equals the square root, parentheses, x2 minus x1, parentheses squared, plus, parentheses, y2 minus y1, all of that squared. Right? That is the distance formula, which you need to know. We're going to use it on this entire page. Literally, the entire page. Fun fact, just for you, Sophie. Anyway, so first of all, let's start with number 1, the triangle ABC. So for some of these shapes, you're going to be able to figure out what the side lengths are just by looking at them. Like for the triangle, you should be able to count how wide it is. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this one is 4 across, and it is 8 down, right? 4 across, 8 down. Okay, now the only one we don't know is this. This is where the distance formula comes in handy, okay? So we're going to do distance equals the square root. Let's see. Now when you're actually doing the distance formula, it doesn't matter which point you use first, as long as you're using both of them and you use it in the same order every time, okay? So I like using if it's a 0 number, I like using that second, but that's just me. So that would be 4 minus 0, all of that squared, plus 9 minus 1, all of that squared. Okay, now you don't have to show me every single step because I know there's not a lot of room on this paper. So you can just do the math in your head. You should know 4 minus 0. If you don't know 4 minus 0, I would probably be scared. Just saying. So 4 minus 0 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So this is going to equal square root of, this is 16, and 9 minus 1 is 8. 8 squared is 64. So let's see, 16 plus 64. I'm going to calculator just because that's 80, right? So we got the square root of 80. Now, if you want to go ahead and make that the decimal, feel free, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. It's going to make your life a little bit harder, which is why I'm not doing it. Okay? Square root of 80. That's our third side. So now for perimeter, this should be easy. Perimeter, remember, that's where you find all of the sides and you add them up. Okay? So to figure out our square root of 80, square root of 80 equals that fun, lovely decimal. Okay? And we're going to add 8 plus 4. That right there is going to be our perimeter. So I'm going to write that down. The perimeter equals 20.9. Okay, it says round to the nearest tenth. There's a tenth because 4 will not make a 9 go up. And this is measured in centimeters. There we go. There's perimeter. Okay, now the next one, for all of the shapes, you have to find the perimeter and the area. Okay, so in case you don't know, area for a triangle is 1/2 of the base times the height. Okay, in case you were not aware. Now you know. Okay, so area equals 1/2 of the base. In this case, we're going to use our flat edges, the ones that we could count. Our base is going to be like what it would sit on, so like 4. Like if I were to like hold this, I could put the 4 in my hand and the 8 would be the height. Or you can hold it that way, and 4 and 8. Either way, you're going to be multiplying it and the order doesn't matter. just use the 4 and the 8. So half of 4 is 2. 2 times 8 is 16. So our area is 16. Remember, it was centimeters. So 16 centimeters. Remember, area is always squared. 16 centimeters squared. That's what we should have. Okay. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense, because we're going to repeat that quite a few more times. Okay, in case you couldn't tell. Alright, so I'm just going to take a minute, and I'm going to draw some lines in between my shapes. Because you're going to need to do a little bit of math for each of these, so it's going to help if you can keep it all organized together. Okay. So now that we have that, let us try this wonderful looking rectangle over here. Okay, so for that rectangle, now when you look at it, just like over here, okay, if you can't just count the sides, you have to use the distance formula. So guess what you have to do 4 times. Okay, well, technically it's a rectangle, so on rectangles, you should know rectangles have what kinds of sides? The same side, well, 2 matching sides. So AB should be the exact same as CD, and AD should be the same as BC. So you only have to do distance formula twice, okay? And it's up to you which ones you want to use it for. I would suggest like using BC over AD. This way you have positive numbers instead of negative numbers, at least for that part. But for doing the longer side, it doesn't matter, because you have 1 positive and 1 negative for both. So let's try it. Let's see. So I'm just going to do BC first, just because it's all positives. Oh, I smudged it. Oh well. Okay, so BC, 4 minus 2, all of that squared, plus 4 minus 0, all of that squared. Okay, again, if you can do it in your head, just do it in your head, write it down, or use calculator. 4 minus 2 is 2, 2 squared is 4. So the square root of 4 plus 4 minus 0 is 4. 4 squared is 16, so 16 plus 4, you should get the square root of 20. So that's BC. So that's going to be this guy and that guy. Okay, now we're going to repeat for those longer sides on the top and bottom. Okay. So I'm just going to do AB, just because, again, you can do DC, it doesn't matter. You should get the same answer no matter which ones you pick. Okay. So let's see. AB, that's going to be 4 minus negative 2 squared plus 4 minus 7, all that squared. So let's see, remember when you subtract a negative, it turns into a positive. So 4 plus 2, you should get 6. 6 squared is 36. Plus 4 minus 7, you should get a negative 3. Negative 3 squared is 9, so plus 9. So you should get a square root of 45. Okay? Square root of 45. Square root of 45. Again, calculators, beautiful things. Please use them. Okay? So let's use them to figure out what our perimeter is here. So let's see. We have the square root of 20. Okay. My calculator is a little fancier, so it can figure out stuff easier than the ones I gave you guys. So I'm sorry, but this makes this video easier. So I did the square root of 20 twice because you have 2 of them. Now I'm going to do the square root of 45 again twice. I'm going to add that with that guy. Okay, so all together for your perimeter, you should get that. So no matter how you put that into a calculator, that's what you should get. And again, we're rounding to the 10th, so it should be 22.4. 22.4, again, it's centimeters. There's your perimeter. Okay, and then hopefully you all should know how to do area for a rectangle. Area for a rectangle or a square is just length times width, or base times height. So that's all we're gonna do. I'm just gonna take the square root of 20, multiply that by the square root of 45. We should get 30. Okay. Yep, square root of 30. So area equals 30, and again centimeters squared, because area is always squared, and boom, ta-da! That's how you do a rectangle. Okay, when you can't count the sides, you have to do distance formula twice. Okay. All right, let's do the funnest shape of all, circles. Okay, so I don't know if any of you have seen circles before, but circles are a little bit different. Okay. In case you don't know, in circles, here's some basic vocab that you need to know. Okay, circles, the distance around, it's not called perimeter, it's called circumference. That's why you see this up here at the top of your paper. Okay, so circumference is a fancy way to say perimeter for circles. Okay, now the formula for circumference is 2 times pi times the radius. Okay, that's what we're going to use. And then this is the formula for area of a circle. It is pi times radius squared. Okay, and in case you don't know, the radius is wherever your center dot is, it's how far from the center to the outside. Okay, to the outside edge, if you will. So from here, so for circle A on number 3, your radius should be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 3 long. Okay. Well, again, we're gonna use the distance formula to figure that out, but again, it should be about that ish. Okay, so let's try it. So let's do our distance. So just to make it a little bit clearer, we're gonna find our distance from A to B, here to here. Okay. And again, AB is representing what our radius equals. AB is going to be 4 minus 2, all of that squared, plus 1 minus 3, all of that squared. Okay. All right, and go ahead and do the math. Let's see, 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is just 4. So you should get square root of 8. And just to prove my point, see, I said our radius was about 3, 2.8. Dang, I'm good. Okay. So that's going to be our radius that we're going to use, square root of 8. So again, now we're just going to do circumference and area, and we're just going to use these two fancy formulas that I just told you. Okay, so for circumference, we're going to do 2 times pi times the radius, which was the square root of 8. Again, calculators, beautiful things, please use them. Okay, so 2 times pi. Your calculators, they should have a pi button. It's somewhere in the top. You might have to hit like the second button to get to it, but there is one on there. Okay, your buttons just look different from mine. Okay, but it should be something like that. So anyway, 2 times pi times square root of 8. Okay, you should get about that. So again, we're going to round to the nearest tenth, so 17.8 centimeters. for our circumference. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing for area. Well, not the same formula, but we're going to use pi times r squared. Our radius is the square root of 8. And we're going to square that. Now, fun fact, okay, in case you don't know, whenever you square a square root, it just gets rid of the square root part. Okay, so just to show you, square root of 8, right? So that's what it is decimal. If I square that, put it to a power of 2, you just get that number back that was inside. You just get 8. Okay, so this just turns into 8 times pi, but you still got to figure out what that is. So 8 times pi is that. Okay, but again, we're rounding it to the nearest tenth, so 25.1 centimeters, and again, it's still area, so it's centimeters squared. And that is how you do a circle. So we're gonna try another circle right over here. Okay, so I'm gonna move my paper up, make sure I'm still in the camera. All right, cool. All right, so let's try another circle. Okay, so again, we're gonna use the distance formula to figure out what this is. Again, our radius is our radius. So that's gonna be x, y. Actually, see, that's why I'm using erasable pen, so I can do this. Okay. xy equals, okay. Let's see, we should have -4 minus -3, all that squared plus 2 minus 4, all that squared. All right, then we gotta do that math. So -4 minus -3. So minus and negative should turn into a positive. So -4 plus 3 should turn into, let's see, -1. -1 squared should just be 1. Plus 2 minus 4 is -2. -2 squared is 4. 1 plus 4, hopefully you all know 1 plus 4. Square root of 5. Okay, now we're just going to do those fun formulas that we wrote over here again. Okay, those guys. So first, circumference. Again, if you ever done here, feel free to keep going. I just feel like I'm getting a little smushed, so I'm going to write it over here. The circumference is 2 times pi times our radius. Our radius was the square root of 5. So I'm going to put all that into a calculator. 2 times pi times the square root of 5. You should get 14 point, we're rounding to the 10th, so a 4 will not make a 0 round up, so we're just going to keep it at 14 centimeters. Okay. Alright, and then do the area. So the area, remember, is pi r squared, so we're going to do pi times our radius, which is the square root of 5, all of that squared. Okay, so remember, whenever you square a square root, they cancel each other out, and all that's left is that number. So you should get 5 pi, which put it into a calculator, should get 15.7, because again, we're going to round to the nearest tenth. So 15.7, and again, it is centimeters squared. So again, if that is smushed, you can go ahead and put it down here or put it on this other side. It's up to you. Okay? Alright. I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Alright. Got 2 more that we're going to try. Okay? And yes, we're going to do the whole paper. You'll be fine. Okay. So let's try it again. These are the most tedious ones because you have to do the distance formula. After this, it does get much easier because down here you don't have to do the distance formula, okay? But since we all struggle with the distance formula, we're gonna make sure we know it this time. So let's try it. All right, this one says it's a square. And what do we know about squares? Hopefully you just told yourself that squares have 4 equal sides. So how many times do you think you have to do the distance formula? If all the sides are the same, you should only have to do it 1 time, okay? So we're gonna do it 1 time. Again, it's up to you which 2 points you pick. I don't care. Just make sure they're 2 that are next to each other that make up a side. Okay, so that is up to you. Myself, I'm just gonna use G and F. No particular reason, just because. Okay. So let's see. Should get 5 minus 3. Really, Fuzzball? You gotta interrupt? That's my cat. Sorry. So 5 minus 3 squared plus -3 minus -1. All that squared. Okay, so do the math. 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So you should get the square root of 4 plus -3 minus -1. Hopefully you see the minus and negative, which should turn into a plus. So -3 plus 1 should equal, let's see, what, -2? So -2 squared would be 4, and 4 plus 4 would be the square root of 8. So all of your sides are going to be the square root of 8. Every single one of them. Okay. Now you're going to find the perimeter and then find the area. So for our perimeter, okay, this should be easy. Take square root of 8 and add it 4 times. Or hand it in the calculator. You're going to do the square root of 8 times 4. That's our perimeter. So our perimeter should be 11.3 centimeters. So we should get okay. All right. Now we're going to do the area. And remember, for area, how do you find the area of a square? Hopefully you just told yourself you do length times width. So your length and width are the exact same thing. Square root of 8, square root of 8. So I want the square root of 8 times square root of 8. Okay, and you should get 8. Okay, so your area is 8 centimeters squared. Remember how we talked about over here, whenever we square or square root, they cancel? We just did the exact same thing. We squared a square root because we had 2 square root of 8s. Okay, that's why the answer is just 8, in case you didn't catch that. Okay, all right. So let's keep going. I'm gonna need tissue. All right, triangles. Okay, this one is a special triangle. Okay, the first one that we did over here, we could figure out 2 of our sides already. We could figure out the base and the height. This one, it's a little bit trickier. Okay, normally you would use like the base and the height, the ones that look like the straight sides, okay? So, or the ones that make like an L shape. So that's gonna be this guy and this guy. But for this one, we're actually gonna use this side, CB, as our base. So we're gonna use that one as our base. And fun fact, you can just count that one. So our base is gonna be, let's see, 4, 5, 6. And then our height is actually, your height is actually the distance from the base to the highest point, or the furthest point, if you will, okay, from the base. So this is actually going to be our height right here. That's going to be your height, and your height is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So that's what we're going to use for that. Now, you only use the base and the height to figure out the area. Okay? So, what was the other thing you had to figure out besides the area? Hopefully you just told yourself the perimeter. Okay? That's what we have to find. But in order to find the perimeter, we have to figure out what these two sides are. Okay? Because you know what this one is. This one's 6. But we got to figure out the distance of those two. So we got to do distance formula 2 times. So we got to do distance formula for AC. And then we got to do it again for AB. So I'm just going to start with AC just because it's the first ones that I see. No real reason. Okay? So we need a big square root. We're going to do 0 minus -4, all that squared, plus, let's see, 4 minus 0, all that squared. Okay, so let's try that. So we should end up with, let's see, minus negative, plus, so 4 squared is 16. And over here, you should get 4 squared is also 16. So we should get 16 plus 16 is 32. So square root of 32 right there. Okay. I don't know why I'm so sniffly. Actually, I know. It's because I'm allergic to cats, but I own a cat. And right now, my office is like her room. So I'm surrounded by her fur. Which I'm sure y'all were dying to know. You're welcome. This is what happens when Miss Howell has to do videos. I end up talking to myself. So you're welcome. Alright, now AB. Again, you pick whichever one you want to start with. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to start with B because why not? So 2 minus 0, all that squared, plus 0 minus 4. All of that squared equals, let's see, 2 minus 0 is 2, 2 squared is 4, 0 minus 4 is -4, but -4 squared is still 16. So 4 plus 16, we should get the square root of 20. Okay, so that's this guy, AB. Okay, so now you have all the information you need to figure out the perimeter. So again, calculators, best friends. Please use them. They can do the decimals. So they can do the square root of 32 plus the square root of, let's see, 20. And then we need to add in 6 for our base. Okay, so add it all in. Should get 16.1, because remember we're only rounding to the tenths place, centimeters. Okay, all right, now we're going to do the area. Remember, for area, area of a triangle is, in case you forgot, 1/2 base times height. So we already figured out the base and the height. The base is 6, the height is 4. So I need 1/2 of 6 times 4, which that should be really easy, hopefully. Half of 6 is 3, and 3 times 4 is 12. And 12 centimeters squared. Okay? And that's what we should have for that one. So hopefully that wasn't that bad. The rest of this is going to get a little bit easier, okay? Because now we don't really have to do distance formula that much. Now you're just going to focus on doing area and perimeter, okay? So let's try these fun pictures here, okay? So again, they want the perimeter or the circumference if it's a circle and the area of each one. So you got to find both. So let's start with number 7. Let's see, this is a circle, so instead of perimeter we're going to use circumference. So for circumference, remember that is 2 pi r. So the only piece of information you ever need for circles is what is the radius. Remember, the radius is always halfway across. So on this flower, I don't know the exact kind, from here to here it is 5 inches, but remember, I only want half of that. So half of that is going to be 2.5 inches. So that's what we're going to use. So circumference is 2 times pi times 2.5. Right? So 2 times pi times 2.5 should get 15.7, because remember, we're just rounding to the tenths place. So it should be 15.7. This time we're measuring in inches. Okay. So there's your circumference. All right, now you gotta do area. So remember, for area of circles, you need take that back. For area of circles, we just need pi r squared. So for area, we're gonna do pi times our radius was 2.5. So I need 2.5 squared. Again, please put all that in a calculator. It's going to save you a lot of time. So 2.5 squared times pi should get should get 19.6. Right? Or 19.6 inches squared, because again, it's area. Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully you could see all that for that part of the video. Sorry. I keep having to look up to see if you can see what I'm writing. So, sorry about that. Alright, now let's try this sailboat, okay? Now, when you look at the sailboat, they give you a bunch of different numbers, okay? They give you all 3 sides, which means you should be able to go ahead and just do the perimeter right away. Because remember, perimeter, you're just going to add up all of your sides together, okay? So when I did this, I added up, because you see how it says feet and inches? I added up all the feet, and then I added up all the inches, and then I simplified it from there. So when you add up all of the feet, right, I'll make sure you can see the calculator. So you're gonna do 14 plus 13 feet plus another 13 feet. Okay, so we get what, 40 feet? So you get 40 feet, and then I'm going to add up all of the inches that were next to my feet. So 7 plus 4 plus 4. Okay, that is 15 inches. But remember how many inches are in a foot? Hopefully you said 12. Hopefully. Okay. Okay, so if it's 12 inches, make 1 foot. That's going to make this perimeter go up to 41 feet, with 15 minus 12 should be 3 inches left over. And that's your perimeter. If you wanted to be extra fancy and turn that into inches, you should have gotten 495 inches. But this way works just fine, and it's a lot simpler, so why not do that way? Alright, now the area one. This is going to be a little bit trickier to do, okay? Because, like, on this one that we did up here, okay, this green one, you remember how our base was, like, the one flat side that we could figure out? And see our height, how it was, if if you look at it, they're perpendicular to each other, the base and the height. That's what you're gonna look for in here. Okay, you're gonna try to find two sides of the triangle that are perpendicular, or well, one side and the height that are perpendicular. And if you look, you should see this fancy red box right here, which you should know that red box means that this line and this line are, hopefully you said perpendicular or made a right angle or 90 degrees, one of those things, because that's what we're looking for here. Okay, so you're gonna use this 14 foot 7 inches. That's gonna be your base, and then this 11 feet 2 inches, that one's gonna be your height that we use, because the base and the height need to be perpendicular to each other. Okay, so that's what we're going to use. Okay, now when you're doing these, because whenever you're doing area for a triangle, how you have to multiply all of your numbers, this is not going to work unless you change all of your units to be the same thing. So my suggestion is change everything to be feet. That's going to be the easiest one, because otherwise you have to convert back from inches to feet or feet squared at the end, and it's a pain in the butt. Okay, you won't get the right answer. So we're going to change it to feet. So let's see this guy. So 14. So remember, you're going to take the inches and change them into feet by dividing it by 12. So 7 divided by 12, 0.583. Okay. So again, this is going to be 14 and 7/12. And then this guy, our height, is going to be 11 feet, and you can say 2/12 or you can put 1/6, up to you, but they're the same thing. And we're going to need to multiply those and then divide it by 2. Okay, so again, you can use calculator, you can do it yourself, it is up to you, whichever one makes you happy. I do calculator just because it's what makes sense in my brain. And again, this is a fancy calculator, so we can figure out what that mixed number is as a decimal, which is why I like using these. Times 11 plus. Okay. And then we're going to multiply that by 0.5, or the divide by 2 for half. Okay. And that's what you should get for your answer for the area. So again, the area we did is the half of the base, which was 14 and 7/12 times 11 and 1/6. Okay, and again, I let the calculator do the majority of all of that work for me, because why not? You have one, might as well use it. But no matter what way you use, like if you took this and turned it into an improper fraction and then multiplied them together, feel free to go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. I'm just going to use the calculator because it saves time, to be honest. So 81.4 feet squared. Okay. Plus we still have a few more examples to get through, so I want to make sure we do that. Okay. Alright, now I'm not going to do this next one because this should be easy. Basically, you're treating this as a rectangle. So you should know to find the perimeter of a rectangle, you add them all up, and the area of the rectangle is you multiply the sides. So I'm going to skip that one. You can do it if you want, but it's right there. So let's take the paper and flip it over. Now we're going to do some word problems, because I know you are so excited to do word problems. Okay? Alright, I'm trying to get this kind of straight-ish. I know it's not exactly, but we're working with what we got. Okay. All right. So this one word problem. For part A, you're gonna find the perimeter. Part B, you're gonna do the area. Okay, and then part C, it's an extra question that goes with one of those two. We'll see which one. Okay. So let's start with the perimeter. So they want the perimeter of this sign. Okay, so when you look at this sign, you want to look at what shapes make up that sign. So when you look, hopefully you can see that there's a rectangle, right? So you should see a rectangle. But you should also see that we have a bit of a circle in here, okay? Now when you look at the circle, you should notice that only half of that circle is sticking out. The other half is like embedded into the rectangle. So we're not going to use that half of the circle. So when we do the circumference in the area, because remember, perimeter is, for circles, it's called circumference. So when we do that, we need to remember that we're only doing it for half of a circle. So remember that. So to do our perimeter, okay, you know all of the flat sides around. So we have 2 plus 3.5 plus 7 plus 3.5 plus another 2. The part that we don't know is the half circle part. So remember, let's see, you'd find circumference, it is 2 pi r, but because it's a half circle, we're going to divide it by 2 at the end. Okay, so if you happen to notice a pattern in that formula, you see how you have a 2 and then we're going to divide by 2, those basically cancel out. So we're just going to do pi times r. So plus pi times, we need to find the radius. So looking at our circle, right, this guy right here, you notice on the bottom it says the whole thing all the way across is 7. So if this part is 2 and this part is 2, how much is left up here? So do 7 minus 2, which is 5. 5 minus another 2, you should get 3. So that means from here all the way across is 3 feet. But remember, radius is only half of that. So what is half of 3? You should get 1.5. Okay, now we're going to put all of that into a calculator. So let's see, 2 plus 3.5 plus 7, no, plus 3.5 plus 2 plus pi times 1.5, and you should get 22.7 feet. Okay, now if you read the directions, it said that they want you to round your answer to the nearest foot. So instead of 22.7, we're gonna say 23 feet. Okay, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. Okay, now we're gonna do it again, but only this time we're gonna do area. So again, remember we have a rectangle and a half circle. So think about how do you find area of a rectangle? Okay? Hopefully you know that. Hopefully you know that area. And we're gonna do a rectangle plus a half circle. Okay, so for my rectangle, I need to do 7 times 3.5. Plus, for my half circle, okay, that guy up here, remember for area of a circle it's pi r squared, but because it's half circle, we got to divide it by 2. So pi times the radius of here. We said the radius was 1.5. So 1.5 squared. Then we're going to divide all of that by 2. Okay? So when I say divide all of that, I just mean this part right here, not this whole entire problem, just the pi times 1.5 squared. That's the only part that you actually divide by 2. So let's start figuring that out. 7 times 3.5. So our first part, the rectangle part, is just 24.5. Now we're going to figure out the circle. So that's pi, oops, sorry. Right, you couldn't see that. That's pi times 1.5 times 1.5, because that's the same as pi or 1.5 squared. Okay, but then we have to divide that by 2. So we get 3.534 blah 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 blah. But we need to add that to 24.5. That's what you should get. Remember, we're going to round that to the nearest square foot. Okay. So let's see. So 28 feet squared. Okay, the next thing that they ask you for the one underneath that is they want to know if 1 pint of sealer covers an area of 20 square feet, how many pints do you need to cover this much? So is 1 can that only covers 20 enough to cover 28 feet? Hopefully you said no. Okay, you're gonna need 2 cans, because 2 times 20 is 40, and that's more than the 28. Hopefully that's not that bad. We're almost done. Okay, we have a word problem I want you to do, because I think you have one like this in your homework, or it's definitely going to be on your EOC in the spring, so you need to know how to do it. So I'm going to show you. All right, we're talking about cake. Okay, specifically the world's largest ice cream cake. Okay, so for this ice cream cake, I want you to pretend that for this ice cream cake, this is what it kind of looks like. Okay, we're just gonna pretend it's like a rectangle cake, like this. Okay, so cakes are 3D, right? Hence why I drew it in 3D. Now it says that it is 4.45 meters long. So 4.45 meters long, 4.06 meters wide, and only 1 meter tall. So that means that from the bottom to the top is 1 meter tall. It says all surfaces of the cake. So that means the top, the left, the right, all the way around were covered with a crumble topping, except the bottom. Okay, so the top was and the 4 sides were, but not the bottom of the cake. They want you to figure out what is the area covered by that topping. So what you are gonna have to do is you get to figure out the area of every single side of the cake. So think about it. All right, if this is a 3D model of our cake, right? So when you think about the cake, like I'm going to use my calculator for a reference. You have the top of the cake and the 1, 2, 3, 4 sides of the cake. Okay, that's what you have to figure out the area for. Okay, so again, you have the top of the cake, the 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and that's it. We're not doing the bottom, because the bottom is like resting on a plate on the table, so that doesn't get covered. okay? So we have to do area for all of those different shapes, okay? So let's see. So let's start with the top of our cake. So the top, to find the area, all of these are rectangles. We're just going to do rectangles. So the top is 4.45 times 4.06. And there's only one top of cake. So we're just going to use whatever that equals. So let's see. 4.45 times 4.06. Should get 18.067. Alright, I'm not going to round these till the very, very end when I'm all done with my problem. That's why I wrote out the whole thing. Just so you know. Okay? So that's the top of the cake. Now we're going to do one of the sides. Okay, so I'm just going to start with this side right here. It is 1 meter tall by 4.06 on the bottom, like how long it is, but we have 2 of those sides, here and here. So I'm also going to multiply that by 2, this way I don't have to do the math again, because I don't want to do it again. 4.06 times 2. Okay, I'm not going to put in the times 1, because times 1 doesn't change anything. So you should get 8.12. Alright, now I gotta do it again. Now you have to do it for the other side. So the other side are these bigger sides right here. Right? So that's gonna be 4.45. So it's this side. But again, the height of it was just 1. So times 1. But remember, you have 1 here in the front and 1 here in the back. So we have 2 of them. So we're going to multiply by 2. So basically, I need 4.45 times 2. Should get 8.9. And now you're going to take all of those and we're going to add all that together. Alright? And at the very, very end, should get 35.087, which they wanted us to round to the nearest tenth, which is about 35.1 meters squared. Okay. All right. All right. Now for the fun ones. So, you see how on this next part where we have to identify the figure and then find the perimeter and the area, you see how you're only given coordinate pairs? Guess what that means? It means you have to do distance formula. Okay. Alright, now I'm not going to do all 4. I'm just going to do 2 of them. I'm going to do these bottom 2. Okay. Just because we're running out of time. And because it's getting late and I would like to go to bed. So, let's do the bottom 2. So this first one. The first thing that I wanted you to do is identify the figure. So to identify the figure, first look at how many points do you have? You have 1, 2, 3, right? Think about what type of shape only has 3 corners in it, or is only made up by 3 sides, if you will. Hopefully you thought of a triangle. Hopefully. Okay. So now we have to do the distance formula to figure out all 3 sides. Okay. So let's start with the first one. Let's do GH. So for GH, we need, let's see, -4 minus 4, all of that squared, plus, let's see, 1 minus 1, all of that squared, See, negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. Negative 8 squared is 64. And then 1 minus 1 is 0. 0 squared is just 0. So we're going to get the square root of 64, which just turns out to be 8. Okay, so GH is 8. So now you got to do HI. So again, fill in your numbers. Remember, x's go first. So I'm going to do 0 minus 4, all of that squared, plus negative 2 minus 1, all of that squared. So 0 minus 4 is negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. And then negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. And negative 3 squared is 9. So I had 16 plus 9. 16 plus 9, last time I checked, is 25. And the square root of 25 is just 5. And the last one, I need IG. So IG is going to be, I'm going to do G first. This way I can do negative 4 minus 0 squared plus 1 minus negative 2, all that squared. Okay, alright, so negative 4 minus 0, negative 4 squared is 16. And then 1 minus negative 2 turns out to be plus. So 1 plus 2 is 3, and 3 squared is 9. So I have 16 plus 9 again, which is still going to be a square root of 25, which equals just 5. Okay, so now that we know what our sides are, you can go ahead and find your perimeter and your area. So remember, for perimeter, you're just going to add them all up. So you need 5. Helps if I put the plus 9 in between them before I write. 5 plus 5 plus 8. Hopefully you got 18. Okay. It doesn't have units with it, so we're just going to put U for units. Okay, and then you're going to do the area. So this is the fun part. You need half of the base times the height. But hey, Miss Howell, they don't tell us what the base and the height are. This is where graphing it comes in handy. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little graph like over here on the side. Okay, it does not have to be perfect, just kind of what it looks like. So I just went to 4 on all of the sides. So G is at negative 4 and 1. H is at 4 and 1. And then I is at 0 and negative 2. Okay, so it should look something kind of like that. Okay, so now looking at that, you should be able to identify which part is the base and which part's the height. So I would say that our base is probably GH, because that's a flat part on the top that we can reach a height. Okay, and your height is going to be this right here, going from our base straight up to point I. So when you count it, it should be, you're going from 1 to negative 2, so that would be 3. So our height is 3. So going back to the area again, area equals 1/2 of the base we said is GH, which was 8, times our height, which we said was 3 because we counted the graph. So half of 8 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. And again, they didn't tell us the units, but we're just going to put units squared. Now, wasn't that fun? And guess what? You get to do it all over again. Yay. Okay. So again, I'm just going to kind of Draw a little line to separate here, just so you have it. Now we're going to do 17. Okay. Now, when you look at 17 right here, okay, how many points do you see? Count them up. Hopefully you got 1, 2, 3, 4. So what types of shape, or what types of shapes have 4 sides? Okay. Hopefully you said a quadrilateral, or a rectangle, or a square. Shoot, even a parallelogram, rhombus, something. Something with 4 sides. So we're just gonna put a I'm gonna say quadrilateral because that just, it covers all of those. So if you don't know how to spell quadrilateral, Quadrilateral. Quad, will, real, lateral. So, like how we did with the triangle, how you had to do the distance formula for each side, gotta do the same thing here. So, quadrilaterals have 4 sides, which means you have to do distance formula 4 times. So let's get started. So first one, KL. Okay. It's -1 minus 3, all of that squared, plus 1 minus 4, all of that squared. Let's see, -1 minus 3 is -4. -4 squared is 16. And 1 minus 4 is -3. -3 squared is 9. 16 plus 9 is 25. And the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so we found KO. Let's now go to the next group. So we're going to do L and M. Let's see, it's going to be 6 minus 3, all of that squared, plus 0 minus 4, all of that squared. Let's see, 6 minus 3 is 3, 3 squared is 9, 0 minus 4 is -4, -4 squared is 16, so 9 plus 16. So again, we're going to get the square root of 25, which is still 5. Alright, let's try the next one. So we did KL and LM, now we're at MN. So let's see, so 6 minus 2, all that squared, plus 0 minus -3, all of that squared. Okay, so 6 minus 2 is 4, 4 squared is 16. And this 0 minus -3 turns into plus, 0 plus 3 is 3, 3 squared is 9. So hey look, 16 plus 9 again. Are you starting to see a pattern? I'm starting to see a pattern. But never, never assume the pattern is going to keep working. Okay, do the math anyways. Because I guarantee you there's going to be one question somewhere where you're going to assume it and you're going to get it wrong. So just do the math anyway. So our last side is going to be NK. And Connor, that was mostly for you. Okay, so N to K. So I'm going to do 2 minus -1, all of that squared, plus -3 minus 1, all of that squared. Okay. Alright, so let's see. 2 minus -1 turns into 2 plus 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 squared is 9. -3 minus 1 is -4. -4 squared is 16. Oh look, 9 plus 16 again. That's crazy. Square root of 25 equals 5. So we got all 4 sides are the exact same, which means if you wanted to be specific, you could say that this quadrilateral is technically a square because all the sides are the same. So this should be super easy to figure out the perimeter. Add them all up. 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, you should get 20. Again, they didn't say the units, so we're just going to put U for units. And then the area should be super easy. Length times width. I don't care which one you pick. Length times width. No matter what you pick, you should get 25 units squared. Ta-da! Alright guys, so that is the end of your notes. Okay. So you should have picked up another paper to go along with this. It looks like this guy. Okay, well, yours isn't in color, yours is in black and white, but it should say extra practice on 2-dimensional figures. Okay, so you have 1 through 9, then you have some extra fun shapes, right? Fun. Okay, just do the circle for the clock, by the way, just saying. Okay, and then there's another page that goes with it with some word problems on it. Okay, and some more in the back. It's a whole 20 questions, okay? So you have the rest of class to work on this. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with a buddy. It is up to you. It is due a week from today. So I'm giving this to you on a Friday, which means for you it should be due on Thursday, okay? Of next week. So good luck. Use calculator, please. Write your steps down. If you have to do this on a sheet of paper, I better see a sheet of paper because I better see something on here. Okay? All right. Good luck. You got this. Bye.